So, meine Damen und Herren, meine Freaks und Geeks, meine Shield Maidens und Berserkers, jetzt geht's endlich weiter mit Clive Standen and Morgane Polanski, ladies and gentlemen.
Go.
Go!
Who's got any energy left?
I don't.
Who's flagging?
Please give it to us, we need it.
What a weekend.
How is it so far? I mean, and we asked this yesterday, but now that it's been a day and a half, is this living up to what you thought it would be?
It's great. I mean, what's there to complain about? We all love Vikings. We love Vikings. You love Vikings. We're in the middle of a castle surrounded by forest with great food, great company, so much fun. If anyone went to the feast last night, God, that blew my mind. It was so much fun. It's amazing.
It's actually even, I don't know what I imagined, but it's even better than what I imagined. And I think what's so amazing is, I don't know if I can speak for everyone, but for me personally, it's as much as an experience for you guys as it is for us. So yeah.
And I told you this, well, I told both of you this yesterday, that the two of you are in like one, if not my all-time favorite scenes of the whole series, where after Rollo and Gisla get married, and she spends so long just like hating him because she was forced to marry him and she didn't want to have anything to do with him because she's a strong, independent woman. Yes! And, you know, eventually Rollo comes to his senses, a big dumb animal that Rollo is, which, I'm sorry, that's how I see it. I call it like I see it.
Some call me a crazy bear.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, he finally realizes, you know, I gotta make the effort. And so then he goes and he cuts his hair and he changes his clothes, and then he learns. And I forget what it is that you say, but you come in the door and you.
Yeah, who said?
And then he bows, and then Gisela just laughs. And I love that because it's a great scene because it showed like the turning point of the two of them as a couple, and I love it. And I thank you for that.
Thank you that that's your favorite scene of the whole series, because that's a huge honor.
It is. What you know the scene I'm talking about, right? Yes, no, maybe.
And it
A
was
lot of
quite easy
maybes.
to laugh at him. Don't need to do much.
His hair was bad, but it wasn't his hair. It was Rollo's hair.
I modelled him on. Remember that guy Fabio?
Oh God!
The one that punched George Clooney. I saw his hair and I went, that's the haircut.
Didn't he like run into a goose on a roller coaster?
Yes, I think it was a pigeon hit him in the face or something like that.
So tell me about, like, because the two of you spend a lot of time doing scenes together, and because those two characters are away from like everybody else, how is that? Because again, Clive, you've worked with the rest of the Vikings and everything else. How did that dynamic change to be so focused, working with just one person? How do you feel that work? Being stuck.
Well, the first thing, I mean, we had our own set, we had our own storyline, we had our own everything, and sometimes we were even on a different unit, so it felt like we were making a completely different show. We were making Frankia, which was great. But the first thing I think about is that, because the other parallel storyline that was going on was obviously Ragnar losing his mind, doing drugs with the Chinese girl, and kind of wanting to kind of come back to Paris. And I used to live out of Travis's pockets. We used to all hang out together, the Vikings. We used to see each other all the time. We'd be on set every day together. And then suddenly I was put in this new world. So Rollo didn't know what was Ragnar was up to, but also Clive didn't know what Travis was up to. And I didn't really see him much, because obviously when they were filming, we were usually home back in London. And then we'd get flown back out and we would do our stuff, and then they would have some time off. So when we have that scene, well, the first scene when obviously he's going, when everybody wanted you dead, I kept you alive. It was the first time I'd seen Travis in a long time. And then we have that battle when we're on the barge and we come face to face and we physically, you know, throw fists. It was a really special day, because I'd got so close to Travis, and we'd hang out and I'd know what he was up to all the time. And then I went through a few months of just not seeing him. And then first time I see him was on set. And Travis is a great actor, and that's that line that's in the show, and he's like, "You look like a bitch." he made that up on the spot, and it really hit me. I was like, oh, and then we just kind of went into this, a lot of improvisation in that. We cut a lot of the fight and changed it, but it felt really special because I'd been out of that. I was really in Camp Gisla in Paris, and to kind of bump into him and just see that everything had changed. I hadn't even seen what Ragnar looked like, so Rollo hadn't seen what Ragnar looked like, so he's a completely transformed character.
How was it like to be stuck with Rollo?
So
Clive?
basically, you're sad that you're stuck with me and not with Ragnar anymore. Thank you so much. Yeah. I do feel bad now that I got you taken away from all your Vikings camp. Much more fun over there, no? No, well, yeah, as Clive said, well, I didn't have the experience of what it was like before, but I did feel very separate, because we're shooting on completely different schedules, and yeah, I would see people in passing, but not really. But Clive was, I'm gonna compliment you, but Clive was amazing, just making me feel included and taking me in, and really making me bond with everyone, so I'm really grateful for how you took me under your wing. You see, I'm being so nice to you and you're just not even acknowledging me.
I think what I was trying to say is my character was in love with you, but he kind of also loves his brother. And do you know, I had the best time actually in Paris because I was very fortunate. Some Vikings, some actors in Vikings don't have a long run on the show. They're dead, or that's all they are. They're the barbarian guy that goes out in a blaze of glory and goes to Valhalla. Well, I got to play my barbarian Rollo. I got to play my berserker, and then I got to all that transformation. And the reward as the actor is to go to Paris and have this almost complete transformation of character. And I like to call it the pauper to the prince. And that's what Morgane allowed me to be able to do. It was a completely different kind of place. I kind of been. If you were to look back at it, it's like you've done the Viking, Clive, let it go. Now this is a new phase, and it's lovely. It was to carry a character all the way through until old age was really special.
No, I see you've got a big tattoo on your forearm, and I saw when you were playing the violin, you've got a big rose there. And I bumped into you at the tattoo stand earlier. Who's getting the next tattoo, and what is it going to be?
I'm getting her face tattooed on my back.
What would Lucy think about that?
Me and Lucy, smiling. I was thinking of getting a tattoo, and I'm thinking about it right now. So I just need to decide. I think I know what I want, but it's quite bold. So yeah.
Just think about Jeanne d'Arc.
I know. Well, no tattoos for that.
No,
But my dream is to play Joan of Arc.
Yeah.
Oh, Joan of Arc.
Yeah.
Jeanne d'Arc. You know?
But it would be.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
So we've got our first question here. Go ahead.
Hello,
Hello.
Thanks for being here. And I have a question for Morgane and for Clive. So the first question for Morgane is, while watching the series, especially the season that you were in, I always thought that the disgust you displayed towards Clive in the beginning, it was so realistic, and even when I watched it, I felt attacked too by your eyes, how you looked at the camera, and it was so amazing. And I wanted to ask if you had any secrets trying to display it like that. Like, did you imagine a person you hate or something like that? Because it was so realistic, it was amazing.
Thank you so much.
That's a good question.
No, I didn't need to imagine anything. I just had to look at him, and that was it. I don't know if no, for real, I don't know if I imagine any. I don't think I imagine anything else. I think I just try and think as her, seeing this big animal in front of me. Yeah.
It was really good.
Thank you.
And for Clive, I wanted to ask you, how did you feel like on set when she looked at you like that? Did you kind of have any special feeling because of it being so, I don't know, so impressive? Did you have like a special feeling or something?
Are you asking me if she's an incredible actress?
I believe that's the question. he's
Yes,
asking, yeah.
she is. No, it was. It was funny as well though, because it's like it's a complete. For Rollo as well, it's a complete. He hasn't got the toolbox to deal with that. at all. You know, he can bludgeon people to death on the battlefield if they say a bad word about him, or with Siggy when she died, he goes to alcohol, and the stakes are so high for him. He needs to make this work, and he's like the big I am. He's like, I'm the big man. I'll turn up. I'm the crazy bear. They're giving me all this stuff, giving me weapons, food, soldiers. All I got to do is like charm this woman, and it's literally kind of like, poof, but he's never come up against somebody like that at all. And he has, and if he doesn't, then he loses everything. And he has nowhere else to go. Can't even go back to Kattegat. But yeah, Morgane is an incredible actress, and she brought it on day one. And we were great because we had a lot of good scenes together. We had a great director as well. We had a few great directors. Helen Shaver, I remember, was very good at working with us about our relationship. And actually, like I just said, I think she was the one that really highlighted to me how important this is. You know, it's not just a woman. This is his chance. And then through that, he falls in love with her. Because he has a big thing for Lagertha, we all know that, and that's that unrequited love. And I definitely think if you're as attuned to the scripts and the subtext, that it was clear that Rollo and Lagertha did have an affair before Ragnar, and that's why potentially Björn is his father. But that was a long time ago, and this guy has just held this burning torch for her, which is just, you know, it's melting his hand. And then this woman comes along, and he actually starts to realise that this is the best thing that could ever happen to him. And that's the fairy tale for Rollo, is that he actually does find love. And these people, and Ragnar never does.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's very medieval because, of course, the marriage was a match made for power and whatever, and then you don't marry for love, but then you do fall in love, which is a really cool thing.
Helen, the director, really changed our relationship, or for me at least, it made it so real and relatable and just, yeah, internal. Like, she really brought so much depth to it, I think.
There was also that moment as well, and it's there, it's history, that Gisla was a lot younger than Rollo as well, and when they, yeah, in history she was 12 in real life. But there's that moment where they have sex and she loses her virginity, and it's also a journey from a girl to a woman as well, isn't it? She suddenly just sees him differently, and that's what the king of, because it's about the power couple suddenly competing against their father, who is a wimp, and is afraid of the Vikings, and he suddenly starts having to compete with his daughter, who is now a woman and a warrior and a strong force of nature, and that also highlights how weak he is as well. Rollo actually brings that side out of her in a way.
Go ahead.
Okay, hello together. One question. How the struggle for the season and so on, the hardest moment. I learned yesterday from talking Harald, at 5 o'clock in the morning. What was the stuff? Ordered it and say, okay, you do it in Ireland, and bam, the stuff to get in work. What was your personal hardest moment at the season?
What was the most difficult things to shoot? You kind of had a posh set. There wasn't any rain and.
No, the hardest thing to shoot, it was not the hardest, but it was the most stressful, is because we were, and it's such an important scene, and it's actually my favorite thing to shoot, one of my favorite to shoot, because of the adrenaline, was when I'm screaming to the soldiers, fight for Paris, and I'm riling them, because we only did like one close-up, and it was, the light was going, and it was the end of the day, and it was so stressful because we didn't get it, and there was only one shot. So I gave it my all, and I think that was, yeah, maybe the more stressful. But I think because I didn't do any battle and stuff, for me it was quite, it was quite luxurious actually. Yeah.
I could say there's battles and there's acting and stunts and there's physical draining, but I think what I found a lot of the time with Rollo was that it's what I had to learn to not play, to not show. He really suffers a he has a problem with showing his emotions, and he tends to show them on the battlefield. I sometimes say it's like self-harm. He's a character that almost like some people cut themselves because they want to not feel the emotional pain, so they have a physical pain to replace it. And it's very hard as an actor because you want to almost, you know all the feelings he's going through, and you have a tendency to want to overshare and show on screen, and it's hard to withdraw that and know when the right time to let it out. I think, doesn't Gustav say to young Björn, he said, a warrior only, you'll only see the warrior's heart when the axe reveals it. And it's kind of, that was meant about Rollo, I think. And that was the hardest thing. It's sometimes really hard to just show that restraint and go, look, he's feeling a lot right now, but he can't let it out.
Good question, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi. I have a question about about similarities and differences between like the self or the true self and the characters. So when you thought maybe okay, it's very similar, I don't think I can drive, or when it's very difficult and very far away.
How much of yourselves did you bring to the characters?
I mean, truthfully, all of me. That's the really truthful answer, I think, from an actor, is that I've only lived Clive's life, and everything I've seen and everything I've felt is all I can put into a character. Am I like Rollo? No. Do I know people like Rollo? Yes. Do I have characteristics like Rollo? Yes. Do I make up some of it with my own imagination, but it still comes from me? Yes. And it's tough. I mean, my job, I think the big thing about it is not to judge him. So there are parts of him that I really do relate to, and I've probably gone through myself, or someone's done to me. But I have to not judge. It's your job to judge when you see his actions on screen. My job is to just ask some really dark and dirty, hard questions of myself sometimes, and go, yeah, I'm gonna put it out there. Because it's not me. It's what I would do in this situation, or what. Yeah. So that's the most truthful thing I can say. Is it's all me. Rollo is me, and it doesn't seem like it because I'm not a rapist, murdering scumbag, but everything he does has gone through my brain and come out as an option of what that person would do under his circumstances.
Morgan?
Yeah, as Clive says, I can only bring myself, everything from myself to it. I think, Gisla is more what I would want to be. I have this, there's this part of me which I would say is strong, independent, and bold, but definitely not as brave and courageous as her, especially the way she uses her voice, and she can say no. I'm learning to say no, and she's not afraid of what people think, and she's very confident, and so she was very inspiring. I like the side of myself that it made come out of me, I like the version I was, and I have a lot to learn from her, because as women, I was saying this yesterday, we're told to not think, speak too loud, be too big, be too much, and not use our voices, and we're very shamed for that, and I think she has no shame with that. Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
It's very interesting. I've never seen it that way because, apparently, when you are an actor, you also make personal development through your characters. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. You better bring it with a cool history question, like you did yesterday.
I did, and I'm trying not to repeat myself.
No.
So I asked a question yesterday about the historical background of your character. Of course, it's much harder for you, Morgane, because your character was ultimately a very young child, right? I understand that completely. So I came here with a question about linguistics.
I also love linguistics.
So, of course, Old Norse aside, in Paris, you had to speak a sort of a dialect of Frankish, Old Frankish, and that might have been a bit easier for you, Morgane, right? But how did you navigate that space of how different, the language actually was, and then did you help Clive, speak better?
Did I have him speak better
French?
Well, the thing is, a very good question. And the thing is, you'd think it'd be easier for me, but it's so different from French now. I mean, it has some a lot of Germanic, it was very difficult. Especially because you have the translation of you know what it means, but it's very hard to learn something that doesn't have any sense. So I remember I had this big monologue in Old Frank, and I just repeated it over and over and over and over again, just in the shower, like constant monologue in my head, because it was quite difficult. And especially you know the overall translation, but as you're speaking it, you need to seem like you know what you're saying. So yeah, it was more difficult than I thought.
So there was no correcting Clive there?
Oh, well, correcting him.
Yeah.
But no, because I don't know Old Frank. I don't speak it at all. But although I was going to correct right when you said before, je vous salue. Je vous salue. Vous, not you.
That was a great question. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make sure as well, when it comes to, of course, linguistics, at some point, did the directors actually allow you to say some gibberish that would pass for Frankish?
No, not for Frankish, but you just reminded me of a story. So there was Old Norse that we would do. Sometimes at the very beginning of the season, I'm going to throw him under the bus because he's thrown me under the bus so many times. But Travis found it really hard to learn the Old Norse, so we had scenes sometimes where I'd have to hold signs. Where, like, the camera was on him, and I'd have to hold it, and he'd be like trying to remember it and read it and say it to the camera. But then there was Saxon, Anglo-Saxon, and then there's Frankish. And the Frankish had not been spoken for. They had one historian come up and go, "This is amazing," because it's a forgotten language. But there was a Saxon, I won't name who it is, but it was funny. There was a load of rewrites of the Anglo-Saxon that came in for one of the Saxon characters. No one here. And he just didn't have enough time to, it was like a big monologue prayer in Anglo-Saxon. And we were like, how are you doing to do this? He was literally sitting in the tent, he's got like an hour, he's like, that's gibberish, I gotta learn this gibberish. And then he came in, it was genius. He got his sword, because he just couldn't remember it. He got his sword, he put it right in front of his face, and just went, bibbly bobbly bibbly bobbly bibbly bobbly boo. Bibbly bobbly bibbly bobbly bibbly bobbly boo. He goes, I'll fix it in post. He was like, you can't see my mouth, I'm just going to read it in the ADR, your additional dialogue recording. And I was like, that's genius. I just spent 3 nights trying to learn 4 pages of Old Norse. I could have just found a way of just putting my hand in front of my mouth.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you. Did you have any language difficulties other than trying to remember it?
I just did my work.
Ooh. Go ahead, finish it.
Alright, so my question to you guys is, what is your character's favorite quote from the show and why?
On the spot, no pressure. I can't remember any quotes either.
I remember some, but they're not my favourite, because there's some I just remember, but my favourite, I suppose it's a scene that doesn't belong to me. I love Ragnar's scene where he's sitting on the beach talking about his dead daughter. That made me cry. It was beautiful. So I can't remember the words he said, but this Michael Hurst sometimes brings something out of the bag and say he's got daughters and sons, and just really, really beautiful language. I know you want me to come up with some amazing Norse like, I wish I wasn't put on the spot because I can come up with something.
I wish I reread it because there's some such amazing lines I said, but right now I can't remember any. I'm so sorry.
That's why I asked, because there's like a million of them, and I wanted to know what you guys thought was the best from your character specifically.
I've got one, I'm not sure if I can remember the quote, but it is my favourite actually because it really touches the character. It's the moment Rollo beats Ragnar on the dock, and he said, I wanted to step out of your shadow.
That's my favorite.
But when I did, there was no sunlight. I don't think it's exactly what I said, but I was like, oh, I'm glad I get to say that. That really hit home.
That is my favorite.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you for sharing, I appreciate it.
Thank you. We have time for one more question, if anybody's got one. Come on. Come on down.
Well, I must say, and I don't have exactly a question, but I would say that it's really wonderful to have you both in front of me, because my ancestors belonged to the 5,000 Vikings who came with Rollo to Normandy. And I really found out this because of the series Vikings. So it really helped me to find my ancestors. It's very emotional for me to find out that you, and it's now very emotional to see in front of the sovereigns of my ancestors. So you gave my ancestors land in Normandy, and then later.
I'm claiming it back.
Yeah, okay.
It's my land.
Yeah, now then we have to go to the French, because my ancestors then went to Germany because they have to flee from the Catholic King Louis XIV, because they were Anglicans, so they had to leave the country, and so they are already robbed again from the French. Okay.
That's great. And also, I mean, while we're here, I talked about this yesterday on my panel, but I mean, we would love to do a spin-off show, because there hasn't been a spin-off show of Vikings. Valhalla is not a spin-off show of our show. It's an entirely different show, you know, that Netflix bought, and they used the branding. And a spin-off show has to have the original characters in it, or just one. You know, when you see Game of Thrones, if it has a spin-off show, it'll follow a character, and so I would love to have a world where you could follow Rollo and Gisla, and not necessarily just be about Rollo and Gisla. We can die very early on, but what I would love to see is the Norman conquests, how that develops, and William the Conqueror, who is such an incredible figurehead in history, and what he did. I mean, the whole reason why England are like 3 lions on a shirt is like there was only 2. He conquered you, and they made a lion on the shirt, because Normandy had 2 lions. Now you've got 3. It's never been done on screen, and I think the way in would be to film it with Rollo and Gisla. On that timeline, when Rollo goes over to Paris, there's 15 years when you don't know what Ragnar did. And I'd love to see Ragnar back on screen too, and I'd love to see more adventures of Björn and Rollo and Halfdan, and you know, when they go away. And so, you know, we went away, you saw us go away, but we didn't see what happened to Gisla in the time that Rollo went away. And there's this story there that I think it would be, that's the most obvious sister show, companion show to Vikings I can think of.
I'd love to see Gisla trying to navigate the power vacuum of Duke Rollo gone. You know, it's like trying to be undermined by all friggin' male pigs that are, oh, I should be ruling.
Yeah, and then when they come back and they're like, I'm taking over, and like things have changed. You know?
Yes.
We should pitch it, yes.
And I think if such a show would exist, it could be also very nice to show the integration of the old belief and of Christianity. I was in a museum and we saw Mjolnir with the cross inside and crosses with the Mjolnir on the side. So this went from graves of pairs who came together and married.
Yep.
So they took over the belief from one to the other. And it's also very interesting that the Vikings, they liked very much to marry the Vikings because they honored the women much more than the Christians. They could divorce if it doesn't fit, okay, divorce.
Women could hold the keys to the house.
And so, yeah, and you heir everything if the man dies. In Christianity, the brother of the woman gets the money, and then he perhaps gives it back to her. So it was really, this could be also very interesting to show. And even that I was on a cloister, and there I saw a cross. On the cross was the cross of Baldur also. So they had both gods on the same time in the same cloister, and this thing could be very interesting for such a series.
Yeah, definitely.
We would have it.
I've just thought of one more quote that I actually like. Now I've thought of it, it would be a nice one to end on as we've got Morgane on stage. When you hear thunder, it is only thunder. When I hear thunder, it will always be Thor beating his hammer. That's one of my favorites.
So, thank you for taking the time to join with us, to chat with us today. I'm glad both of you were here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. all. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot.
Enjoy the rest of the show, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Clive Standen, Morgane Polanski. Bleib stehen, der Charity-Verlösung kommt gleich.
Ja, das ist doch schön. Ja.